All right, we're on air.
Dope. Alrighty, welcome back to another edition of Metal Rock and Whiskey News. How's it going, guys?
What's up, Jake?
Going good. Glad to be back.
Well, I can tell you one thing. Things are not going good for Rage Against the Machine bassist, Mr. Tim Commerford, who we have recently talked about I brought up as one of my favorite bassists, and let's just say Rage is not just the name of the band in this case. He and his estranged wife had a run-in, literally, this last week when she apparently came to the house that he was at, grabbed somebody's Porsche from outside, drove it through the garage door, and proceeded into the house and beat his face to a bloody pulp.
Wow.
Wait, the wife did this?
Yeah.
Oh.
There was people around, and I guess it was videoed, and everything was given to the cops. And I don't, want to have a discussion about domestic violence. I just thought it was one we had just talked about on our basis episode, but then the irony of Rage Against the Machine, and it's Rage Against the Estranged Spouse.
With a machine.
She allegedly, and according to people's phone videos and everything, thank you technology, she grabbed it says she accessed a Porsche that was sitting outside and drove it into the garage door until it gave access for her to enter. So
such a clinical way of describing
access.
Well,
the front end of the Porsche looks pretty scratched up. So I'm guessing she just pushed the overhead door in until she could crawl underneath it or something. But
Ooh.
Yeah. So sorry, Tim Commerford, but yeah.
That sucks.
That does suck.
What you got over there, Matt?
All right. Well, I have a bit of whiskey news. It's some record-breaking whiskey news. And actually, before I get into this, once upon a time, there was a time when Ed and I did a news episode, just the two of us. Sailor and Jake, you guys weren't there, and I had mentioned this story briefly there because back in October of last year, I believe it was. No, it wasn't October of last year. Maybe it was some other time. I don't quite remember, but I don't know why October sticks out for me. But there was a record-breaking bottle of Macallan sold at auction. It was a bottle of 1926 60-year-old. Sold for $1.1 million.
Oh, okay, now I remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, that record was actually just broken recently, I think last week. It was another bottle of 1926 60-year-old Macallan was sold for $1.5 million. I know, it's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Yes.
So ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you don't plan on flipping that one.
Both of those bottles that I mentioned, they're noteworthy. They're part of a 24-bottle collection of the 1926 single malt. 12 of those 24 bottles featured artwork designed by Peter Blake, and 12 featured artwork by Valerio Adame. The bottle sold in October. The first bottle was part of the Valerio Adame collection. This bottle, however, was even rarer, the one that just sold recently. It was actually hand-painted by Irish artist Michael Dillon. And there's only one of those. So that's why it went for $1.5 million. Okay. Truly one of a kind. Which brings me to my question here. And you guys can be as frank with this question as you want, but what would be if there was a bottle that you just had to absolutely have, what would be the top of the mark for you to spend on a bottle?
Well, I guess it depends on why you wanted it. Like in the case of that bottle, it wasn't just a bottle of whiskey. It was actually a work of art. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's hard to say without getting any more specific.
I've actually I've considered this question a number of times. Actually, I know what my cap is on like a regular quote unquote regular bottles, so to speak. But there's a couple bottles out there that I really want in my collection, and I've really contemplated, like, that 200 mark is what I've set, because I feel like anything above that, it better be really just amazing, because now you're talking 4 really good bottles that you can get for $200.
Yeah,
so that one bottle better be just fantastic. Now, if I was getting it to, celebrate something or whatever, that might be a little bit different. But I think maybe if it was one, really particular bottle, and maybe I was celebrating some kind of big achievement or something like that, I might be willing to go up to like 500.
It also, I think it's worth saying or asking the question, is it also a bottle that is available and is just expensive, or something that maybe you get an opportunity to buy and you'll never find another one? That's
yeah. Like for me, that bottle for me is the Four Roses 125th anniversary bottle, which you can't get it anymore, obviously, unless you go to a secondary market to get it.
But even within that, though,
it came out 5 years ago.
Even within within that, though, you still have your limit as far as what you're willing to put out for that bottle.
Which that bottle goes at secondary for above that mark for me. So I would have to really, and I've considered it a number of times.
I do not collect. I refuse to spend big money on something that I should be drinking and enjoying in the now, in the moment. My bottles on my shelf fluctuate depending on what I've been gifted, what I've picked up from tastings, if I have a little extra money here and there. So sometimes I have 60 bottles, sometimes I have 10 bottles, because I drink it. Mm-hmm. I've held on to bottles a little bit longer if they were special to me, but I would never spend more than $100 on a bottle of whiskey. I don't care what it is. It's not worth it to me. That's
kind of my feeling. Very similar to yours. If I bought a whiskey, chances are I'd be, wanting to consume it, not just to let it sit on a shelf. And, I'd have a hard time paying more than like $100 as well for something I was going to drink. I mean, maybe if it was something extra special, I might spring for an extra 20-25 on top of that, but it would have to be really, really something.
All right, so no one's going to auction anytime soon, basically.
No, I mean, if I was a millionaire, I would up that price for sure. But I still don't think I would spend. Let's say I was a millionaire. I honestly still don't think I would spend more than, maybe I would go up to $200 a bottle, because I know I'm going to drink it right away. Yeah. I always leave, like, if they're special bottles, I leave like 2 drams in the bottom. I'll hold on to it, or maybe I'll sip it a little slower, but I just think the point is to drink it, so I think it would be a waste of money for me. I get that juice might be so special, but in the end, for me, a juice that is $75 and a juice that is $1 million, there is no way that the flavor difference is that large.
No, definitely not.
It's like impossible. The thread count in sheets. Yes, you can take the lowest thread count in sheets and the highest thread count, and you have instant gratification. Oh my God. Okay, these sheets are $1,000 because holy crap, feel how soft it is. This is insanely different than the first one. But even still, I don't think it's worth, $1,000 versus $25 for sheets. Again, I just don't, I can't imagine what. You're just getting it because it is, because, oh, I got that, I won that at auction. I just don't think the juice is worth that money.
It certainly has to do. It certainly has a lot to do with your relative discretionary, income available, and yeah, like you said, if you have plenty of money to spend, I mean, to each their own. If you make $100,000 a year, your amount of money that you're going to spend on on fun stuff is going to be different than what you'll spend if you make half of that.
Right.
It's just whatever you have to spend, I guess. Yeah, because that's really what pushes the secondary market the most.
But even still, like I said, if I was a billionaire, I still don't think I would spend that much money.
Like you said, you're drinking it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I could even. Yeah, I don't think.
Have you ever watched Billions? Have you ever watched the show Billions?
No,
I have not.
So Michter's has to be a sponsor of that show because those guys, all they drink is Michter's 20 and Michter's 25, and they have a bottle of it in every episode, and they just grab it and drink it all the time. Everywhere they go, they've got Michter's 20 or Michter's 25. Like in one of the episodes, it's funny because I think the episode, it was in season 1, I believe, and so it was, or it might have been season 2. It was when that first like Michter's Celebration came out a couple years ago, which was like a $5,000 bottle.
I think so.
And in one of the episodes, the guy goes up to the bar and says, I'll take the Celebration. And she goes to bring it up, and the bartender makes a big deal, like, you're seriously going to buy a shot of this? And the girl next to the guy that asked for it, that works with him, was like, no, he doesn't want a drink. He wants the whole bottle.
Are you like that too, Jake? Where if you're watching a TV show or you're watching a movie and you see a bottle there and you're like, turn to the wife and you're like, oh, I know that bottle. That's so and so.
Well, that's what. Because I was like,
even if you don't see the label, you can sometimes pick out the shape of the bottle and you say, hey, they're drinking Blanton or something like that.
Well, because I think I think even the bartender had said like, it's like I don't know. I think she said it's like a $500 pour, and I was like, secondary. That's like a $8,000-$9,000 bottle.
Yeah.
That's more than that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you know what time of the year it is? It is the season for giving, my friends. And since if you're listening to this, hopefully you listened to our most recent best of episode, which was our greatest guitarists. And so I've got some great gifts to give that guitarist in your life this year. These are from the Punch-In from truefire.com. This is their list. It's the 10 best gifts for guitar players for 2018. I'm just going to go over a couple that I thought were a little bit, just maybe a little bit different than. Obviously, there's a Crybaby wah pedal, which we know that Kurt wants another one of those this year for Christmas.
Because he wears them out so often.
Yeah. What's that?
Does it come with a Kirk Hammett signature on it?
It should. It definitely should. Which is funny because in the description of it says from Hendrix to Clapton. It should say from Clapton to Hammett is what it should say. If they really want to talk about the people that use the wah the most.
That's right.
So there's a couple on here that I thought were really neat, and maybe I've just been. I pulled up this article because I've been considering. Been thinking about getting my guitar back out and playing again, taking some lessons and stuff. And so I was considering doing like YouTube lessons, and I a long time ago sold all my amps and everything. So I don't have anything to plug my guitar into. And so I was thinking about getting one of those like iPhone things, that you can plug your guitar into an iPhone, essentially use your iPhone as the amp. So I was looking for one of those and came across this list, and there's a few things on here that I thought were kind of neat that would be fun gifts to get somebody. And the first one being a guitar smartphone holder. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a clip that goes on the head of the electric guitar or acoustic guitar, and it holds your smartphone. So if you've got tablature or I want to say sheet music, but it's obviously not sheet music on your phone that you're looking at or whatever, it's right there for you to see right on top of your fretboard. So
watch your YouTube lesson videos
oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, Ed. Yeah, if you're somewhere where all you have is your phone, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that. And it also makes the point that you can, if you have a tuning app on your phone, It's a perfect spot to have it to do the tuning. This one I thought was neat because, well, it makes the point. It's a slide ring, and it says the great thing about a slide ring is, unlike a traditional slide that covers up your entire finger, you can use the ring when it's time to slide and use your fingers when it's time to play a chord. So it looks like just a really cool piece of jewelry, to be quite honest. It's a really cool looking ring. It almost looks like a mood ring of sorts. And I'm guessing like you spin it around 180 degrees when it's kind of time to play, so that the larger shape of the ring would face the strings. But have you guys ever seen one of those before? I've never seen
I have a hard time imagining what that would look like.
Exactly, yeah. I'm trying to picture it in my head, but
I can picture it in my head, but I'm having a hard time figuring out, like, how would you, is it like easy to just flick around? You have to stop and flick. Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
yeah.
It looks like just a regular ring.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like wider on top, and then you just kind of turn it so the top goes down to the bottom.
So when you go to play your guitar, you can just slide it around. Maybe even if you want to slide it up to the base, the middle of your finger shaft, as it were. Thought that was an interesting one. Here's a really fun one, and I think this one could get a lot of traction, especially if you wanted to give a friend of yours a Metal Rock Whiskey customized guitar pick. So there's these personalized guitar picks, and you can basically get any picture or wording, whatever you want, on these guitar picks. Some of the suggestions that they have are Pluck You, Fred.
I like it.
Would that be Pluck You, Lars?
Yeah, there you go. Somebody buy Sailor a Pluck You, Lars guitar pick. They've got, here's one for you, Ed. This job plucks. But I thought those would be fun to have. Again, hey,
Mother Plucker.
There you go. Yeah, if your mom's a guitar player, there you go.
Mother Plucker.
Get your mom a guitar pick, or get your dad a guitar pick.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's amazing.
I think that was about it. They do have this one. It essentially looks like a Bose, like in-house, like towers. Those Bose home speakers that are a foot or so tall and like a 6 to 8 inches wide. And I mean, these suckers, I don't know if you've ever heard one of these, but they fill your house, and they're just tiny little Bose wave speakers. Well, they have one of these that you can run your guitar on also.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it says, now we realize this is roughly the cost of a mortgage payment, but hey, if you're looking to impress, sometimes you got to shell out the dough. So it doesn't give an actual price, but I'm guessing I can figure out what it costs. But it is completely portable. It's a easy speaker to move around, and it's amazing the technology nowadays. I mean, I've been out of carrying amps around for a long time, but I can only imagine that you don't need I can remember my guitar. I had a PV guitar amp that had to have weighed like 150 pounds and was about half the size of my body, and I would carry it around. And nadays you get one of those Bose wave speakers that would be 3 times as loud as that amp ever was.
Yeah, those days are long gone.
Well, hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey, you guys, have you been paying close attention to the latest victim of rock and roll's pie problems?
Uh-oh.
Well, you were referring back to the sweet piles of pie?
Yeah, so we talked about this quite a while ago on the show.
Axl Rose syndrome.
Axl Rose's dangerous addiction to pie. Welcome to the jungle. We've got cakes and pies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet pie of mine.
Someone else having a
We've got everything you want, even waffle
Here I am, Hot Pocket Queen. Oh, yeah.
So who's our next?
It seems Vince Neil.
I was going to say I can't quite recognize his face. Could you tell me who it is?
It is Vince Neil is the latest victim of rock and roll's dangerous addiction with pie. This seems to be something that yes, I sent you guys pictures.
Holy shit!
Recent pictures of Vince Neil, and came across a quick story about a look inside rock's dangerous pie addiction. It was a report from an Instagram friend, and another picture of Vince Neil on there. He looks like he's about to give birth or two.
Still got the eyeliner.
Pie versus 1980s lead singers.
I think the pie is winning.
Yes.
I gotta say.
That's worse.
He's
worse than Axl, man. He was worse than Axl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty close. They're pretty. You must have forgotten. Let me remind you and hold this picture up because I think you've forgotten. I mean, come on. That's pretty chunky. Yeah, I think they're both probably neck and neck, or double chin and double chin.
What neck?
Yeah, what neck exactly? Yeah, so I think we're going to have to put together a little PSA for our next show, and since it is kind of pie season, the holidays, Christmas is coming up. We just got through Thanksgiving, so we should pull something together and help warn the kiddies out there to be careful about the dangers of pie if you're a rock and roller.
Maybe instead of the old celebrity death match, we can have the celebrity sumo match now.
This would be a good contest. These two chunkers. I'd love to see who would win that. Because
my money's on Vince Neil.
Probably, yeah. Actually, probably.
After seeing this, yeah, I would say so too.
I mean, at least Vince Neil used to be pumped. He used to be pretty jacked for a while, but
now he's just insulated.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's like one of those things. Like if you ever look at like an offensive lineman in the NFL, like these guys are so athletic and just, I mean, they're incredibly strong and in excellent physical health, but they weigh up to like 400 pounds. And if you look at them, if you were to see one of those guys on the street, you'd be like, man, that guy is huge, but like fat. But in reality, they just during the season they have to pile on so much weight because the idea is they have to be heavy enough that a defensive lineman can't easily lift them up. That's probably not the case with Vince Neil.
No, I don't think so.
They have to have the most too.
Somewhere deep under there, there's a muscle base somewhere under there.
I'm sure there is. Vince, if you're listening, man, back away from the pies. Just know that you can get through this. You can get past this. Go get help.
Motley Crue did have a song about another slice of your pie.
They did.
Oh my god. Well, that was my contribution to the news today.
Nice.
And Matt, did you have one more story, or
time for a quick one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Always time for a quickie.
Do it.
All right. Only because I think Ed and Jake will love this, and I think Sailor and I are gonna not be so happy about this. Not that we care about this guy's opinion anyway, but I figure I just throw it out there because he's totally irrelevant to the subject matter. But anyway, so recently in Chicago, Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park sat down before a gig with Noisy.com and actually listened to Slayer's Rain and Blood from beginning to end for the first time and offered his critique on the album. Yes. Like I said, we don't care about his opinion.
Who gives a shit about this guy's opinion?
Exactly, my point.
Even
I'd
fans,
be interested to hear what he had to say. Actually.
But the fact that
even their own fans, I don't think would give a shit about. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, but the fact it's interesting because he has cited different thrash bands, and him and Chester, I know, cited different thrash bands as influences in their musical careers. Some
but
way.
he's never heard Slayer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Whatever.
and he grew up in Southern California too, so go figure
whatever,
that one out,
dude.
too. Yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah, maybe this is just like 2018 Mike Shinoda listening to this and having a bullshit opinion on it. But anyway, so they sat down and listened to the album, and just to pick a couple things out here, talking about Angel of Death. He says it was almost like a cop-out. They were like, well, it's not glorifying Nazism, but I'm reading the lyrics, and my first impression is like, yes, it is 100%. Not a fan of that at all.
Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, if he knew anything about those guys, he would know
if he
that
knew
what he just said,
exactly was really, oh, fuck him.
He's like, despite that, here's the thing, though. I love how the music came in, and I love the way the record starts, despite what he said.
Wait, that's his comments from a musician. I love how the music came in and the record starts.
Yeah, he makes a comment about.
That's it. That's all he has to.
About the beginning, where he thought it was like guitars coming in, but it was actually Tom Araya like screaming at the top of his lungs. He's like, "Wow, I thought that was guitars. It's amazing."
Oh boy.
Where'd you find this article again?
It's on noisy.vice.com. So I mean, it's a pretty lengthy Q&A as they go through each song and the entire album. So it's an interesting read. Like I said before at the top, I don't really care about his opinion. Specifically about a band like Slayer, it really holds no water for me. But it's just interesting to actually have someone else in the music business sit down and critique that album and be completely wrong about it. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, that sounds. How can you cite thrash bands, but you've never heard Slayer?
Yeah,
how can you be?
Yeah, he's like, I've never heard the album from beginning to end.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What the fuck? All right.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 20-something in 1986. So I mean, I don't know. Growing up in Southern California and being a rock fan, I don't know how you don't at least pick that album up and listen to a track or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you consider yourself such big Metallica fans as they did back in the day. Anyway, I thought that was just interesting.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, that kid can just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
All righty.
Got anything else, Gene?
No, I think that about wraps it up. What's going to be on the Wednesday show this week, guys?
Wednesday show is going to be great. We're finally getting to the final episode in our best of series.
Drummers. Dun dun dun.
The heartbeat of the band, as it were.
This broke my brain. Doing this one broke my fucking brain.
Yeah, it wasn't worse than guitars.
It was to me. It was just as difficult.
It was bad in a different way. I didn't have as long of a list to narrow down, but narrowing down my list was just as painful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that you guys let me talk about all 10 of my favorite drummers.
Fuck off! That did not happen. That will not happen.
Curious to see what Jake made the sleeve this
Wednesday
to see.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for any of those that hung out on YouTube tonight, and we'll catch you Wednesday. See ya.
Later.
Are we not live, Ed?